I think the majority of people need to change their views around what made in China means, and I think it's gonna change during this decade. And I think NIO has a good chance of becoming the textbook business case study for this. And for making this argument, I'll first show you a clip by a McKinsey executive that is teaching at a business school in China. So this is what people that are studying in Chinese currently, foreigners, what they are learning, and also basically what they see daily on the streets and experiencing when they are in China.
What is correct is brand preference for Chinese brands is increasing, market shares of Chinese brands is increasing. Because as long as the products are made in China, it doesn't make any difference because people can't differentiate. They just buy the best product. So why are Chinese brands gaining market share? Not because of nationalism and Chinese like Chinese things and they're anti-American or any of that. It's totally wrong. They buy Chinese brands because they have a better product at a better price. It's very easy. It's very easy. That's why they're gaining market share. Because the products today are better. If you look at the products in the market, the Chinese products are extremely good. And many of the foreign companies have the problem that they took their products 20 years ago, 15 years ago to China, de-spec them, make them cheap, so it's a cheap shampoo now. And now basically they're stuck with their cheap shampoo. But the brand is affiliated with that price point. They can't just say, okay, now we put a better shampoo in with the same brand and put it up. Not working. So you need a different brand. And then the global foreign companies are thinking, well, we don't have a brand because our premium product we de-spec'd for China and put it cheap in the market. So now you can't just say, okay, forget about the past, we do it new now. So the foreign companies have a dilemma there. It's a real dilemma they're facing because they traded down their global mega brands and now they can't get them up. Now the Chinese come around the corner basically saying, let me do a really good product and put it in the market, and then they sell. In some categories, Chinese are basically driving the premiumization. It's fantastic to see.
So I still get this quite often, that China is still a copycat and that Chinese people, they don't want to buy, for instance, Chinese cars. They want to buy the German cars and so on. And although this has been true in the past, and it is still true in some ways and for some product categories, I think it's basically taking new shapes right now. And a great example for that is, I think, NIO, of course. NIO has a great product in the market. It won several awards. NIO cars are ranking the highest in satisfactory ratings across the board. And you can see from the design language, from the business model, from the introduction of battery swapping and so on, that this is not just a copycat approach. Of course, many of these aspects have been kind of existing somewhere before, but what NIO managed to do is to create something new, a compelling brand, a new business model that is quite differentiated from even Tesla. So what we just heard by the McKinsey consultant is, I think, that NIO is actually driving the premium segment here. And that can be easily seen right now in this chart where like the premium to luxury brands like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, and also Tesla are compared in terms of the April sales volume. For the legacy cars, you can still see the higher volumes, but these are not electric cars. These are also the gasoline cars. And then you see the price points here, and you can see that NIO is having this high spike mountain here with one of the highest average sales prices. In fact, it's even a tiny bit higher than Mercedes-Benz and certainly higher than Tesla's. So just as learned in the clip, NIO has managed to introduce a new product and brand which seemingly gets adopted very well in China by the consumers. And as one of the first Chinese brands, they actually managed to break into a segment that was traditionally occupied by the legacy foreign manufacturers. Yet it seems that the adoption, well, tells us that it's a good product that can compete also on the quality side. And additionally, that the price to quality ratio seems to be quite good. Otherwise, the Chinese consumer certainly wouldn't buy a NIO. They would opt for the German car brands, for instance. So what we can observe here, I think, is a larger shift, a trend towards homegrown startups and own products that are catching up with the foreign manufacturers in terms of quality, innovation, and price, and what you get as a Chinese consumer for it. But I think it will actually, during this decade, go even one step further in a way that, for instance, now in the case of NIO, they will start and go global, go overseas. And then I think we'll also see kind of a reset of the Western mindset, which still usually thinks about Chinese being cheap, copy, and not well made. And I think this perception will ultimately shift. And I think that's why NIO in the end could be ending up as a textbook case study in those business lecture classes, for instance, with this McKinsey consultant, in not only the Chinese business schools in the future, but possibly also in the West. And the important thing from an investor's perspective here is now that these companies, for instance, like NIO, they are rooted in China, which is, for instance, now the biggest market for electric vehicles, but it's also the biggest market for e-commerce in the world, for instance. So you get new business models, for instance, factory to consumer direct models of where you have new products that are being introduced in the market and directly sold online. And that's also where I think NIO will be tapping in with the NIO Life and e-commerce business on top of that. And so it puts those Chinese companies in a strategic position where they have this huge domestic market, which actually would be enough of a total accessible market to serve in order to grow really large businesses, but also with the opportunity on top of that they could actually go overseas and explore new markets, which is not necessarily that they will be successful with that. I think we don't have any success cases as of now. I think Chinese companies usually have been quite unsuccessful actually going overseas so far. But I think now the time is more and more getting ripe for that, because I see just on the fundamentals, on the technology, on the product quality and so on, that it's resonating much more and more with the Western audience. And yeah, once again, my biggest bet here is obviously on NIO. So yeah, definitely going to follow and cover here more what that means, not only for EVs, but also NIO Life and the e-commerce business in the future. I've done my video before that I think that they can be more successful than Alibaba in the cross-border e-commerce business. I've got tons of people asking me already whether or not they can buy merchandise, NIO merchandise in the US or in Europe. So far it's impossible. We'll see what happens when NIO brings out the English app. I think in the beginning it possibly won't be available to buy those merchandise in the future, but my case, and I will be making more detailed videos on that in the future, is that we will see new brands coming out of China, fashionable, fancy, cool brands that will be introduced into the Western markets, and possibly mostly due to the NIO ecosystem. Alright, that's it for now. Just some quick thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. Smash the like button and see you in the next one.